Hi, hello, and annyeonghaseyo. My name is Lee, and welcome to my channel. Today, I will be reviewing and discussing the South Korean LGBT film Ashamed. Ashamed is a romantic comedy drama following Yoon Ji-woo, an adrift young woman who agrees to model for her friend Hee-jin and art professor Jung Ji-woo. While on their beachside shoot, she reminisces to the two women about her complicated love affair with a pickpocket named Kang Ji-woo. Released in 2011, Ashamed was the second feature film for director Kim So-hyun. It premiered at the 5th Busan International Film Festival in October 2010 and went on to tour the festival circuit, screening at a handful of queer-centered Asian film festivals and Korean cinema-oriented international events, as well as at the Berlin International Film Festival. It was released to very limited theaters for the domestic audience starting December 11, 2011. Ashamed went on to gross $19,099, according to the business zone of the Korean Film Council, and racked up 3,234 admissions. The viewer responses I could find were fairly split. The negative reviews were pretty scathing, calling the film convoluted, strange, boring, pointless, terrible, and a piece of crap that had poor plotting, while some revealed they didn't even finish watching it or said it was a waste of time and money. However, the positive reviews, admittedly fewer, described the film as heartbreaking, quirky, captivating, and well shot. The singular critics review I could locate also gave it a mixed response, acknowledging the performances and the film's achievement as one of the earliest Korean lesbian movies, but also admonished the director for the final product's poor pacing, tonal inconsistency, clunky aesthetic and narrative choices, and general lack of cohesion. To be honest, this film took 3 attempts to watch before I finished it. The first 40 minutes, which I watched in about 2 chunks, were insufferable to sit through from a writing, character, stylistic, and editing standpoint. Looking at interviews with the director, the lack of confidence in the subject matter becomes evident. Instead, the production proved to be a learning process. He, as well as the lead actresses, presumed there was some essentialist difference between heterosexual and homosexual relationships, in terms of dynamics, attraction, desires, affections, etc. But while developing the project, they realized something pretty basic: don't essentialize. There can be nuances, specificities, and contexts, but treating one or the other as essentially different only perpetuates practices of othering, fetishizing, alienating, and at worst, demonizing. Having watched the film, I can, with some confidence, state it does not employ any of those said practices in its depiction of a same-sex relationship. In these same interviews, the crew expressed a desire to normalize LGBT representation, but Ashamed is far from perfect. Very far. The ensemble of female characters were initially characterized as cloyingly quirky and superficially eccentric, banding together to meander from tangent to tangent. Furthermore, the lack of confidence extended to the film feeling unpolished and not entirely cohesive. The dreamlike elements and nonlinear structure did not work for me. As a result, I would fully understand a viewer being ambivalent about the overall picture or not being able to commit to the film. I almost didn't think I could finish it. However, my ranking of this film may come as a surprise. Around the 50-minute mark, as it really gets into the relationship between Yoon Ji-woo and Kang Ji-woo, the characters and story become very compelling. The first act, the one people I think rightfully were not particularly keen on, goes thusly. The film begins when Hee-jin, an art student, is tasked with finding a female model for her mentor's newest inspiration. Professor Jung Ji-woo is a fierce and demanding artist in her own right, and rejects most of the model prospects, but is unexpectedly drawn to Hee-jin's friend Yoon Ji-woo. The story's framing device takes place at a secluded beachside as the 3 women get to know each other and prepare for the photo shoot. Yoon Ji-woo, the model, is trying to move past a painful breakup. In flashback, we learn she's quiet and observant, but feels alienated from most people emotionally and romantically. Through a rather truly bizarre accident involving a mannequin, a car chase, and a set of handcuffs, she meets Kang Ji-woo, a pickpocket who's just been arrested by a cop for theft. Not long after this unconventional meet-cute and a series of strange encounters, both Ji-woos develop a mutual attraction for one another. From there, the film takes off. Dream sequences, jumps in time, and flashbacks within flashbacks are scattered throughout, and the narrative is highly subjective. The story is very much from Yoon Ji-woo's perspective. There are themes of self-discovery, love versus possession, and how love can be affirming to the self, but does not cure the emptiness. Similar to Our Love Story, released 6 years later, Ashamed provides a bittersweet reminder that the person or relationship who helps us discover or embrace a pivotal part of ourselves, like our sexuality, is not always the endgame. The first is not always the last, and it won't magically make us feel whole. It does not cure the emptiness, as Kang Ji-woo says. Ashamed has both lesbian and bisexual female protagonists. Yoon Ji-woo begins as the quirky, not like other girls protagonist, an unreal and impenetrable character, but by the end, she is a well-realized and very sympathetic heroine. I can see Kang Ji-woo falling troublingly into bisexual stereotypes: criminally deviant, mentally unstable, manipulative, high sex drive with emotional disregard for either male or female lovers, a pathological liar, etc. These would be valid criticisms of her character, although I think the conclusion does hint at mountains of unresolved issues and pains that we are not privy to, as the story is told from Yoon Ji-woo's point of view mostly. The rough and meandering first half could have been better devoted to her background. Altogether, I would give the first half of Ashamed a C- and the second half a B+, which averages out to about a B- C+. As a content warning, Ashamed does depict an intense relationship and there is sexual content, maybe one of the earliest lesbian love scenes in Korean film. Personally, what stood out to me was the arc of Yoon Ji-woo, played by Kim Hyo-jin, who actually played the mistress in one of last week's films, In My End Is My Beginning. Sexuality is complex. It shapes how she relates to her body and consequently how her body relates to others. Yoon Ji-woo compares herself to a house. It's in order and healthy, but her attempts at heterosexual relationships and relations have represented keys that do not fit her door. By not successfully performing heterosexuality, she feels emotional, physical, and sexual alienation from other bodies and thus to herself. Ashamed, which more accurately translates to embarrassed or shy, is the story of how she discovers the key and finally feels a connection and a kind of harmony with herself for the first time. Her body, heart, and mind align in a way that is incredibly meaningful for her, and hopefully the viewer as well. Ashamed is available for free on Tubi, so please check it out. Until next time, goodbye, farewell, and 안녕히 계세요.